When at school next day, everyone wanted chicken pins, so they saw things your way.
Thank you, Al. Appreciate that. And Lynette, I guess you're the next one up. You want to come on up and tell us a little bit about what you know? I met Lynette here at Twin Pines a few years ago. I did a presentation on what we're doing about saving and restoring and bringing back the Ozark Chinquapin. And back here in the back, raise your hand up there. We got a person that lives down in Oregon County here, and everybody needs to talk to him a little bit later on and learn a little bit about some of the Chinquapins down there. And so we, like AJ was saying, we had a native population here in southeast Missouri too, and we'll find out a little bit later on what happened to that. But because of the shortleaf pine, and this visitor center we're in is dedicated to logging. So most of the forest completely changed about what, AJ, about 1890?
1890 was about the pivot.
Largest timber mill on planet Earth was here at Grandin, Missouri. And you know, you can hear whistles blowing at noon from timber companies, crews everywhere logging, and they completely changed the landscaping. With it went the Chinquapins, then you had open range. So we've got remnant populations here and there, and we've been finding some of them. And so when I was doing that meeting here a few years ago, Lynette was here, and she was telling me a little bit about her experience with it, and I was kind of pleased to hear that. So I'm going to turn it over to you and just tell us a little bit about what you found out. And I was, what I found out in the past though is that, you know, a lot of us go out hunting mushrooms. Well, if you can multiply that times 100, that's how important hunting for Chinquapins was. People would go Chinquapin hunting, and they would gather up all their equipment like going on a hunting trip, and they would gather the nuts. So I'm going to turn it over to you and tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from and what your connection here is.
I'm Lynette Hollis. I live in Oregon County near Alton, Missouri, and my father was born there on my dad's side. And anyway, we would come down. I was born in Granite City, Illinois. They left Oregon County to the steel mill. That's my family. But anyway, we would come down here every weekend. Now, I'm 54 years old, and my dad would come, and we had a farm down here. We'd get a break away from the city, and we would hunt and fish, and we were all mushroom hunted. And he was telling me the story when he was a young boy, and he looked for Chinquapins, and he showed me it's where Turner Mill South. If you go down south of 19, and you turn the left before you get to Alton on AA, and you go to Turner's Mill South. And he showed me. We went out in the woods, and we were looking for these Chinquapins. I remember him telling me that we got to look for this nut that has this real prickly. It's really prickly, and it was really sweet. And he, you know, was telling when he was a kid that, you know, basically they did that this gentleman was talking about at school and everything. And of course they walked to school back then. But anyway, we went and we were looking for these nuts. And then my husband, he's born and raised, his family, the Hollis. I'm a Nicholas. But anyway, we would go, and he said his dad went across the river to Turner's, and they did find Chinquapins, and they did, you know, hunt the nuts. I was trying to ask my husband, where is this place? You know, but he couldn't remember where his dad took him. And he had to work today or he would be here. But anyway, we searched, and we did find those nuts. And then I have uncles too that look for those. That's native at Alton, Missouri, and that looked for the nuts when they were young boys. But we tried to find this one nut tree, and we just found like a little one, but the big tree was gone. See, this has been several years ago. This is when I was a teenager. But my husband said there is Chinquapins not long across 11 Point, but he couldn't tell me where it was at. But it was fun. You know, I just love the outdoors, and I love the nuts. And I do remember my father-in-law bringing the nuts. Lonnie Hollis, he's deceased, but we did bring the nuts, and they were very tasty and sweet. And my passion is that in Oregon County and throughout the states that we do restore this tree, the Chinquapin. So that is my small story, but I do remember that. So, okay.
Okay, I don't know if we may need to dim the lights a little bit or whatever, just on the front maybe, so everybody can see this a little bit better. Well, we've got, every time we do one of these meetings, and I've talked a little bit with some of the people presenting today, and we've always got a few new faces in here, and Eric, glad to have you up here as well too. And so we've got some people that don't know some of this background information. So it's always good that when we tell this story to tell about where we start out at, where we came from, and where we're at now. And so I've got a PowerPoint right here. I kind of tweaked this a little bit late last night in the wee hours and get a little bit more information that leads into what we're doing. And so when I first started doing this, and by the way, this background picture, Lynette, this is from Oregon County, and this is near where you're talking about your family actually collected nuts. And Russ right here is the guy I was pointing to a while ago. I told him, I talked to an old gentleman years ago that told me about Ozark Chinquapin nuts growing. You know, he was a kid collecting down there too. And so I started looking. Finally, I found a tree, and then I found another one, and I told Russ about it. And Russ, do you care to tell us how many trees you found so far scattered through that area she's talking
about
about?
610.
Fantastic.
Most of them are just small.
Okay.
And there's old logs there. In fact, I've got a picture of some down there. And so doing this whole thing, we've discovered more and more trees in areas where modern tree books don't even show them. And me and AJ were talking about that. And we've got them in Wayne County as late as 1978. You know, we have a federal book that came out, Rare Plants Ozark Plateau. And then just recently, I don't know if I told you, AJ, we've got a remnant population in Reynolds County. And the gentleman brought me leaves and nuts and burrs from that. He's been trying to get me over there for about a year and a half, and we had our big flood in April. I was going to go. So we keep finding more and more places in Missouri, and it goes back to all the tree range book maps. So it's kind of like we're dealing kind of like with a ghost right here almost trying to find this. So anyhow, this is a little presentation I've got here on the Ozark Chinquapin, and I guess this thing works. And I want everybody to understand here today, you know, we're trying to save this tree, but if you leave here with any message at all, I want it to be that none of us fully realize the impact that we have on the world around us or other people. We really don't realize it, good or bad. And so like even you, when, you know, being younger and hearing your dad's stories like that, that impacted you. And you're here today and you're inspiring people by saying that. And so I want you to keep in mind that, that if you leave here with any idea at all, it is that we can all make a huge difference in the world around us. And even though something may seem hard to do, well, if you think you can do it, or if you think you can't do it, you're probably right. Neither one of those. So this work that we're doing right now is taking a lot of effort from all of us. And that's my young son there right now. And so that's Kids Fishing Day. So we all are busy with things going on. But you got to kind of try to keep a balance between work and family and that sort of thing. So as we go along today, I want everybody to kind of keep that in mind. It's like my whole life has got me ready to do what I'm doing. I'm like AJ, I'm an interpreter too. We excite people about the outdoors and neat things, and we got the best job. We probably do it for free. And I know Steve Churchill and some others here could say the same thing too. But we just don't want our bosses to know that though. And so I like the garden. I enjoy that kind of thing. I've always liked the outdoors. There's a little place right here in Poplar Bluff, Missouri that they were going to pave in years ago. And I do things, I don't know if y'all heard this, called FFF. It means Forced Family Fun. My wife is sitting there right now. Yes, we're going on this vacation. Yes, we're going to plant this flower bed. So that's my daughter Leslie, the lady, you want to raise up your hand, Leslie? That's her today, and that's my son. And so we adopted this flower bed they were going to pave in, and it's still green today. And we've planted flowers there, and just a little bit of something here and there will make a big difference on the way something looks. And one person can make a big difference, though. And so that rubbed off on her. So Leslie's here today. I did not force her to come here, fortunately, right? Tori, I did. You did. And so contrast is kind of interesting. I know of people that have lived in downtown St. Louis, right by the Arch, and they've never been on the Arch before. And I grew up in the farmland, the Boot Hill, and it's kind of like what you're describing about the muddy ditches and all. Well, it's kind of the same way with me. And we took that forest and we basically turned it into like a desert with crops, muddy fields and all. And so when I was a kid growing up, we would go up to the place I took everybody on the field trip yesterday, that creek. Did everybody enjoy that little spring down there? And so we had a chicken shack on that creek, and we made a cabin out of it. And so every weekend we'd go up there, we'd go hunting, we'd go fishing, we'd drink the water, we'd go swimming. So I learned how to swim in Current River. It's like I've got two homes, the Boot Hill, Missouri, and then along Current River. And so that contrast, leaving from that stark farmland up here where we're at right now, where it's cool and green and shady and clear water. You know, in the Ozarks, we've come to appreciate the clear water that we have, and you don't find that in other parts of the country. And so we are blessed, but we're so close to it, I think sometimes we take it actually for granted. So those of you that are here today, I encourage you to get out and take a look at some things. You got to see Big Springs. It's a must. And so now where I work at, this is not a remote place. This is on Loop 3 campground right in the park. And I was called over there because there was a barred owl that was in the water. Well, I got him up on this branch, fed him some fish, and the parents came back. And here's a guy fly fishing here. So I actually work on the Current River. I've gone full circle, and I'm working on the very river that I learned where to swim at as a kid. And so I've come to appreciate all things that we have here in Missouri. And so that being said, I met a guy up by Hunter, Missouri here years ago. Our property, let me go back. Our property that we had became part of Ozark National Scenic Riverway, and it stretches for about 130 miles, and it was the first river system ever made into a national park. Well, I was really upset at the time because they took away our cabin, our land. But over the years, I see the wisdom of why they did that. It was so everybody could go there. And so anyhow, I began to not go to our cabin anymore, but I began to camp out in the woods where we used to hunt at. And along the way, I met this gentleman. He turns 98 years old today. We presented him with an award last year. And he still hunts, he still fishes. And he's the one that first told me about the Ozark Chinquapin. And here's what he would tell me. I don't know if y'all can all see this on the side right here. But this is what he told me time and again. I used to have old-time fiddle music to this. I couldn't get it going last night. Use your imagination. And this is wrong. He turns 98 this year. I did not get to update that last time. So this is what he would tell me time and time again. And so I thought, how come I've never heard about this tree? I mean, what is going on? I've never heard about this. And the guy was real knowledgeable, and everything he told me was true. He's never been to college, but he's one of these people that spent a lot of time in the outdoors. He knew more about different kinds of trees and animals than anybody had ever talked to. And the guy would camp out up near Hunter, and he would stay for about 3 or 4 weeks. On the weekends, his whole family would come up, and there would be maybe 20 of them there at one time. Well, over the years, I'd see him, I'd say hi to him, and then one time we began to talk about the campsite, and he began to tell me about this. And so it really got my interest and attention. And so I did a lot of checking, a lot of looking, and I thought, well, something's not right. He said this thing grew all over the Ozarks, and now modern tree book maps only show it in extreme southwest Missouri and northwest Arkansas. And even there, if somebody said they found one, nobody would believe them. And I'm like, what is going on with this? Well, the Ozark Chinquapin, sometimes called Ozark chestnut, or Chinquapin, like you said, it was real drought tolerant, grew to heights of 65 feet, 2 to 3 feet in diameter. It grew on real acidic, dry, rocky soils on hilltops. And it bloomed in late May, early June after the threat of frost. And so it produced a bounty of sweet nuts every year. And it was very dependable, and it was not only something for wildlife, but people ate them too. And like she said, they're real sweet tasting. They taste like a real sweet almond with a kind of a peanutty flavor, real good aftertaste on it. And so the wood was highly prized because it's rot resistant, made excellent railroad ties and fence posts, and now they're all gone. Well, this is a Chinquapin wood dulcimer right here. And so people also make musical instruments out of them. As we progress throughout the day, these little things I'm telling you, you're going to hear a little bit more from other presenters here. And so, what happened to them? A.J. Hendershot, like a lot of people I talked to about this tree, he's like, well, how come I've never heard about this before? And I've had people that are experts. I had one guy with Army Corps of Engineers. He was just almost laughing. He said, well, I've never heard of this. You know, I've got a college degree. how is it that this tree could even exist and I haven't heard of it? Well, you finally get to the point where you learn enough, you have enough knowledge that you realize you don't know anything. And so anyhow, H.A. Hendershot went back and interviewed all these people that I did. And H.A. Hendershot is, among his talents, he's also a talented artist. So he drew in pen and ink this picture you see right behind us here. And by the way, you get a chance, walk around breaks, look at this. And A.J. entered this in an art show in Cape Girardeau, his pen and ink, and he won first place with this drawing right here. And so now the trees are all gone. They were real important. Everybody interviewed said the same thing. They made so many nuts, and they were so good to eat, and you could fatten up hogs on them. They were good to eat. You could sell them, you could trade them, and now they're all gone, and nobody's ever heard of them.